Hey folks, welcome to our webinar on transforming e-commerce shipping into a competitive advantage. Today we have in our panel some of the top logistic experts among us. So let me start introducing them. First, we have Joshua K. Horn from Pitney Bowes, 10 years of experience accumulated from his experience in UPS as well as Pitney Bowes Global E-commerce. Next, we have Tony Chen, who is the Chief Technology Officer at Passport, an international shipping carrier for e-commerce companies. And finally, we have Lee Smith, who's the president of Reliable Logistics. They are the leaders in freight management service, last mile delivery, cross-border and Canada, wide LTL and FTL services. Hey all, welcome guests. It's great to have you. And thanks for your time to share your learnings with us today. So without any further ado, let us get started. First up will be Josh educating us on overcoming the challenges of e-commerce shipping.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Rev, and thank you everybody for taking the time out of your busy schedules today to join us. I've been looking forward to this for the last couple of weeks. So without further ado, let me quickly share my screen real quick. All right, Rev, let me know when you can see that, would you please?
Yeah, we can see you.
Awesome. So today I want to talk about a lot of the challenges most of us in the online e-commerce logistics space face from a retail and brands perspective. Now, obviously, I think a lot of us, when we talk about challenges today or we think about challenges today, front of mind today are, supply chain constraints and capacity issues and container costs. So I don't want to talk about, the obvious that we're all dealing with. I want to talk about more impactful things that may be not only impacting your cost, your bottom line, or your ability to grow your business during peak season, but also throughout the year as we lead toward peak season as well. So as we get into this, a lot of carriers, if you take a look at cost of shipping these days, a lot of the populated areas, the more rural areas within the cities, a lot of customers due to COVID, due to a lot of the different things that we've experienced in our lives over the last couple of years, a lot of people are pushing their way outside of cities, whether they're moving to the suburbs or more densely populated areas. Dispersion is going to be a key factor in considering, what your parcel cost may be, as well as how quickly you're going to be able to deliver your goods to your customers. So if we take a look at this slide, right here it shows on the right-hand side, just a quick snapshot of New York, the Connecticut area. What you can see is over here in the green, in the darker green areas, is where consumers are moving. So if you can take a look at New York, you can see, from a pink perspective, this shows that everybody's moving out of New York, moving into the more densely populated areas. So if we take a look at some of the survey results that are provided by Pitney Bowes box poll, Pitney Bowes is doing some pretty cool things from a marketing perspective and trying to provide, retailers and brands and consumers alike with weekly consumer surveys. So we're trying to take a look and provide feedback to our retail brands to show you guys, from a consumer perspective, what it is from a consumer buying behavior that you guys need to identify to help continue to make your brand more competitive in this space. So if we take a look at this graph, 1 in 3 adults surveyed out of 2,000 people are looking to or planning to move from where they're at today within the next 12 to 18 months. 31% of those folks surveyed plan to move outside of cities and lesser populated areas. So with that being said, a lot of things to consider is the cost to service those customers. As we start moving further away from cities, now we have to consider delivery area surcharges, extended delivery area surcharges, year over year cost increases for those surcharges, and how those surcharges pile up on top of additional surcharges such as residential surcharge and so forth. So as we consider different ways and opportunities to decrease our cost to service our customers, we need to start really thinking outside the box and potentially looking outside of our stereotypical major carriers such as like a FedEx or a UPS. There are all kinds of different carriers. Pitney Bowes being one of them, they have multiple different service options to help deliver from a final mile perspective to really help reduce costs, as well as different expedited and guaranteed delivery options that can really, impact, not only your consumer buying behavior when it comes to checking out your items online, but also, us carriers as being a part of or an extension of your brand. We recognize that how important it is for us to deliver your parcels to your customers in a timely manner. More oftentimes than not, if a delivery goes awry, our retailers or our brands or our partners are the ones that are really taking the heat for that. So it's imperative to not only identify the correct or appropriate carrier partner for you, but also identify what are some of these other additional areas of cost or, from a parcel perspective is going to be impactful to my bottom line. A lot of these different surcharges aren't necessarily front of mind. Everybody's looking at, what are my rates? What are my discounts? But outside of discounts, there are also other areas that are going to be negatively impactful to your business if you're not careful. So knowing where your customers are, knowing how much it's going to cost to get them there from a total landed cost are going to be two incredibly important factors when considering the appropriate carrier to kind of help you plan for not only a successful peak, but also in your parcel delivery as well. Speed of delivery. Everybody knows the Amazon effect. Everybody feels that if I can't get my parcels to my customers within 2 days, I cannot be competitive. However, getting your parcels to a customer within 2 days may cost you more than what is necessary as far as your customer's perspective on what's fast versus what's slow. So instead of thinking, I've got to have it there in 2 days, let's take a look here at what true consumers, based upon Pitney Bowes box pull studies, really show or believe to be fast versus slow. So if you take a look on the left, you can see all kinds of different product categories. So take a moment to really identify where your product categories land on this chart. And then if you take a look here, you can really see, based upon the averages, what most customers feel is fast, which on average is about 3 days, versus what some customers feel is slow, which would be really anything outside of 5.5, 6 days. So what's unique about this slide, and what's unique really about the opportunity that this poses to the wider audience and retailers and brands and shippers alike, is we need to absorb this information and recognize that we don't need to utilize a UPS or a FedEx 2-day air to service our customers. We need to really take a look from a mode optimization perspective, understand where our customers are in previous slides, and then understand what service levels can I use or utilize to get my product to my customer fast, or catering to the customer that's looking for a free delivery option, what service levels may fall in between the 3 to 6 day delivery timeline that's going to suffice and appease my customers and still continue to give our customers the experience that they're looking for at the cost in which I can afford. Obviously, there's so many different factors that lead into our product prices, and the domino effect says if I have to pay for 2-day shipping, obviously my cost to my customer is going to be increased. If my cost to my customers increased, how competitive does that allow me to be with my competitors? So recognizing that and really taking a look at your carrier, your partnerships is going to be strategically important in making your strategic shipping decisions as far as which service levels do I need to utilize and which service levels are going to work for my customer at an affordable cost for me as the retailer or the shipper. Email and SMS and tracking. So there is a huge piece of a customer's buying journey in which I feel a lot of retailers and brands alike miss out on, and that is really the post-purchase gap. And post-purchase could mean anything from tracking and visibility to the returns experience. So a lot of challenges that shippers or retailers or brands may face may not even be necessarily identified challenges. There is a huge opportunity to continue to market to customers and provide them a branded experience even after the fact that, you've got your customer to go online, you've spent the money to really get them to, place a product in a shopping cart and actually, check that item out and buy it from you. Why let the ball stop there? Continue to roll that ball after on average, the average consumer is going to track a package 3 times. I've heard as often, as many as 6 times. So 3 to 6 times throughout the life cycle or the journey of that package being shipped from either your location, your fulfillment location, to the end delivery. So there is significant upside opportunity there. Platforms such as like a Pitney Bowes or a Shipping Chimp, that we allow the customer the opportunity to, at a complementary perspective too, the opportunity to sell to customers by product placement, continuing to allow customers to recognize, hey, if there's a delay in this shipment, it may not necessarily arrive on Thursday, but it's going to arrive on Friday. That proactive response allows our customers to say, hey, I understand things happen, things are late. I hear the news. I see the news every day. Thank you so much. My experience has not been, been hurt at all. I know that, okay, it's not going to arrive Thursday. It'll arrive Friday. No big deal. But having that interaction and that response, that visibility, not only from our perspective as the shipper, but from a consumer's perspective, really enhances the customer experience and really drives that brand satisfaction that you guys are trying to promote and extend to your consumers. So visibility is going to be key. And I can't even, stress enough that having that branded experience and not the look of a UPS or a FedEx, shipment notification or a postal shipment notification, although those may suffice, there is a huge opportunity for shippers and retailers alike to really continue to market additional products and really remain in touch with their customer even after a parcel's been, or a shipment or a product's been purchased. Returns and convenience. 78% of surveyed customers or consumers feel that their returns experience recently has been just inconvenient, stressful, unnecessary, and that's huge. Returns, from an end-to-end delivery or in customer experience perspective, we can't just focus on our website. We can't just focus on providing our customers with excellent products. We have to focus on the total end-to-end experience. And a lot of that has to do with your customer's returns experience. As more customers shift away from buying, products within stores and within malls, and due to COVID and the shift in consumer buying behavior going online, things are going to be returned. So don't ignore it. Embrace it. With all the different tools, that Pitney Bowes and other, folks out there can provide, we can really provide an end-to-end delivery and returns experience that keeps customers coming back for more. A recent survey showed that 80% of consumers will rank returns as incredibly important to the overall order experience, tied with number 1 with being unboxing. And those numbers are quite incredible. 3 of 4 consumers or roughly 78% of consumers will say online returns experiences were a hassle. And more than 60% of consumers will actually take a look at your returns policy before they even place an order. So if you don't have a well-defined and easy to use returns policy, then 9 times out of 10, or maybe not 9 times out of 10, 6 times out of 10, that customer that you could have had went to your competitor to check out that item because their returns policy or process was that much easier. So lean on your carriers, lean on Pitney Bowes. There's an array of different excellent opportunities for you guys to make returns profitable, credit your customer, or I guess take $5, $6 out of your customer's credit, to offer them an easy to use returns experience. Plug that returns portal into your website to free up your customer service to allow them to focus on, pushing more orders out the door versus managing customer expectations with them calling in trying to get a return label. Build that into your website, build it into your tracking notifications. So it's incredibly easy for your customers to use, because if it's not, you may lose that customer for a lifetime. We want to help you guys, drive repeat business. So returns is a key component of that as well. The holiday preview. Now, I understand that it's December 8th right now, so a lot of the things in which, myself and the guest speaker is going to be speaking to in relation to peak season shipping may not necessarily be relevant as far as being able to implement some of these things into your network or your environment today, but it's excellent to help you guys plan moving into the next year. What this slide shows is roughly, by mid-September, 25% of consumers have already started their Christmas shopping. When we get to October, the total goes up to 42%, and by mid-November, half of consumers have already either completed their Christmas shopping or at least have begun Christmas shopping. So what does that mean? How do you alleviate some of the supply chain and capacity constraints that we're all experiencing and facing today? A key component of that is selling early. A lot of us, we see Black Friday deals starting at the very beginning of November. Amazon and some other customers or retailers may be pushing sales into October. And the key importance of that is not only to give our customers access to sales early, but it allows retailers and brands to alleviate some of the stresses that are posed on carriers such as Pitney Bowes or UPS or FedEx, and allows our customer experience for our end consumer to be that much better, because they're going to get their stuff quickly and they're going to get their stuff on time. So a lot of considerables, when extending our sales, is we have to take a look at our returns policies. If I sell something in September that's not going to be open until Christmas, I can't still have that same 30-day return window. I need to extend that possibly well into January or maybe even February. If I, want to make sure that I'm, taking a look at peak season surcharges and how that's going to impact my bottom line, which is also going to impact my product cost and my margins, maybe it's best that I sell some of those items early as well. So therefore, the impact of a peak season surcharge doesn't necessarily impact my bottom line. Mode optimization, leveraging the right carrier, the right service level. There's final mile delivery options by USPS, where USPS touches every single home address every single day. It's what they do best. And they do it without charging extended delivery area surcharge, residential surcharge, fuel surcharge, all these different surcharges that pile up to make what I thought was a competitive price not so competitive. Mode optimization is key, using the right carrier for the right service level to get my product there at the right time, at the right cost that's going to make sense for me as a business. So I just want to stress to everybody, yeah, there are supply chain issues, but based upon our experience today, there are so many ways in which you can mitigate that with planning earlier. We can't start planning for peak season in October. We need to start planning for peak season in July, in June. We need to start ordering earlier. First, just-in-time inventory, as though, how incredible and innovative that has been in recent past, it may not necessarily work in the coming future due to this big shift to e-commerce. So if anybody has any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out to myself or any one of the guest speakers. We would absolutely love to have the opportunity to work with you and your brand to help understand and recognize your business and help provide you some of these additional insights to really help make your peak season successful, not only for you, but for your customers as well.
Thank you, Josh. That was fascinating. I think my favorite part was one of the mythbusters you had on your slide about, how today shipping is the norm, whereas according to your research, it extends up to 3 days for most customers. That was fascinating. I think listeners, if you have any questions within those slides, please hit us up here. In the meantime, we are going to have Tony Chen on the best practices when you want to grow your e-commerce internationally from a technology perspective. He's going to speak on. Tony, the stage is yours.
Cool. Okay. All right. Thank you, Rev. And thank you, Josh, for opening that. And well, so now that, let's say, okay, just one second. Let me share my screen first. I only have one very high level slide to guide the conversation. So now let's say you have done everything that Josh has mentioned, right? And you are now rocking domestic shipping, okay? And now you want to take your business global, right? And you're like, okay, well, what do I do, right? How can I sell and market my products to international customers? Well, you have a lot to do, my friend. And so roughly there are about 5 steps here, and I've broken down into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 buckets here. And so before you start like marketing to your international customers, right? You want to figure out, hey, like, can I sell the products to these countries that I'm thinking of expanding to? Different countries have different rules and regulations, and you have to think about them. And so, for example, the obvious ones are, say, you cannot ship CBD products like overseas to Canada, or that's a given, right? But some are not so like obvious. For example, you can ship a sculptware to, say, Saudi Arabia, but you cannot ship it to Kuwait. So there are a lot of like subtlety there. And for example, if you want to like ship some skincare products to EU countries or to Australia, right? There might be different labeling requirements, or some ingredients may be banned in one country and not the other. And so you have to figure out, hey, like, can I sell my products to those places? And so after you've done the research, another challenge is that, well, like, can I provide my my downstream providers, my international shipping carriers, all the data that they need to ship the products for me? And so that's when you need to like really figure out what each one of your products like HS code is, and what is the country of origin, things like that. And so you have to like figure out what you're selling, whether or not you can sell to those places, and all the data you need. And so that's the onboarding step here. And then now you need to think about your customer checkout experience. So you have to think about, hey, should I customize my checkout to each individual customer's like unique experience? Do I want to provide, say, a very localized experience to the customers? Do I want to show the checkout in their local language, in their local currencies, right? If I do that, well, how do I do that? There are a lot of companies like out there that would do that for you, but choosing the right partner is important. And then, well, what kind of payment method do I want to provide to those customers? Oftentimes, the more localized the payment method you provide to them, the more likely they are going to convert. So, for example, in China, you might want to offer WeChat Pay or Alipay, right? In Brazil, you might want to offer Boleto. So things like that you have to consider. And then, well, last but not least, while you pile on all those things to show to your customer, like, can you still provide a very fast response time to the customers and giving them a very good checkout experience, right? Because when your response time is very slow on the screen, you are going to lose the customers because, well, conversion rate is going to drop if you don't give a fast enough response to the customers. And so that's on the customer checkout experience. And now it's time to ship your product. And so when choosing the shipping part, right? Do you offer DDU shipping, or do you offer DDP shipping to the customers, right? DDU stands for delivery duty unpaid, and DDP stands for delivery duty paid. So, do you want to have the customer prepay the tax and duties at checkout, so that when they get the parcel at their door, they don't have to pay tax and duties, as an additional step, right? Because that is a very bad customer experience, because, well, you don't get the parcel, but instead you get a bill in your mail and say, hey, please come to the post office to pick up your parcel with your wallet. And not only do you have to pay the tax and duties, but also you have to pay a fee to retrieve your parcel. And so that is a super bad experience, and guarantee to lose some of your customer loyalty, right? And then, also on the technology piece, when you're shipping those products, right, you have like as an e-commerce provider, you have a whole string of software you have to navigate. The order would go from your e-commerce platform to your OMS or your ERP to your WMS, right, which your 3PL uses, and then all the way to the shipping carrier. And you have to make sure that all the data flows all the way through this chain to your shipping carrier. And then, for us as a shipping carrier, we have to worry about getting the data all the way flow to the customers and to the final mile carriers. And so it's a very long chain of data flowing. And it's one of the fun parts about shipping. Now, after you have shipped the product, right? After you have shipped the product, just as what Josh called out earlier, now you have to provide a good post-purchase experience to the customers. So, over there, right? Do you do you offer a branded tracking page? Do you offer live chat and support on your branded tracking page, right? And then when things go wrong, and things probably will go wrong, at some point inevitably, right? How do you provide a recourse to the customers? Do you provide them with insurance? Do you insure the parcel yourself, or do you have the customer pay for the insurance, right? And then if you have the insurance, what do you give them a very painless and easy way to give them a claim process, right? So and also also post-purchase, you how do you reconcile the bill you're getting from your carrier to the bill to what you have charged your customers at checkout, right? And so this whole financial reconciliation is something that I would consider, as an e-commerce operator, right? And then, well, last but not least, I want to briefly touch on international returns, because, just as what Josh mentioned earlier, return is very front and center on a lot of customers' mind. And international return is tricky, right? It's super tricky. It can oftentimes be cost prohibitive to provide international returns. So, as an e-commerce provider, do I offer international returns? Do I charge customers a fee to let them return? Right? How do I keep my returns cost down? Right? So all these things are challenging to the e-commerce company, and at shipping company at Passport, I as CTO, I think about, hey, how do I integrate with all those international returns carriers, and make sure that my clients have the best experience they can be, and have the fastest from customers door cross-border back to the consumer's home. How do I keep the cost down and keep the return speed good enough? So last but not least, I want to point out one thing that it's important. The international shipping is very tricky, and rules and regulations change very often, and so you need to remain agile and be super flexible. And then if you don't want to worry about all the rules and regulation changes, then I would recommend partnering up with a company such as Passport to take care of all the burdens for you.
Thank you so much, Tony. I think that was very intriguing and very interesting, especially when you mentioned about how complex the checkout experience can be when brands go global, when their response time is going to be complicated, and that might result in their leads or customers not checking out or abandoning their cart. So that was very interesting. So if any of you have any questions to Tony about the international shipping or international returns, or about going global and having a seamless checkout process, please hit us up in our chat, or you can reach out to Tony. Next up, we have Lee, who's going to talk about reducing shipping costs, both domestic as well as cross-border. Lee, you're on mute.
There we go. Testing 1, 2. I am back and live. So thank you very much for this opportunity to discuss, kind of things that has been part of our lives for many years. Now, the interesting thing is that talking to Josh and talking to Tony over, for the last little while, we've worked well together. Their presentation, first of all, I have to say, guys, excellent presentations. You've really kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of what's happening out there. So I kind of almost feel like saying, hey, you know what they said to get this thing started, because again, Josh, great slides. Tony, as always, a lot of great information. So I'm going to be the old guy on the team who kind of comes in and tells you, remember the old days, when a customer would ship, with Canada Post, what I worked with, or somebody else, they might say, hey, you just order this item online. It's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to get there. And if it got there between 6 to 8 weeks, you're excited because it actually got there to you within the 6 to 8 weeks. And I just I find it amazing how far that we've come. And that, when it doesn't get here overnight, I'm like, what is Amazon doing to me? Why are they not getting my packages here? So this is the kind of environment that retailers are finding themselves in, that 6 to 8 weeks is long gone. 2 days is it's wow. 2 days, you're gonna take a whole 2 days to get it here for me. Even when we talk to the folks in China, and you have Jack Ma saying from so I want an item that when the customer orders it in North America on Monday, by Wednesday it's in their hands, right? So this is the kind of environment that we're in. And again, to do that, it's very challenging. But the fact that we've been able to go from 6 to 8 weeks to about, let's say, 2 days, is amazing. And we've done this in a really relatively short period of time. So what I want to do today is really just kind of work with you guys, just very high level. I don't have a cool slides as Josh, but a lot of the stuff that he talked about, I'm just going to try and maybe enhance a little bit more. The cross-border options, Tony's touched on that. Mix of carriers, Josh touched on that in return. So I'm just going to give you my perspective on some of these things, and hopefully, maybe give you some sense of where you can go and how you can make this work for you. Customer service to me is one of the biggest areas that I think about when I think about what's happening in the industry right now. And that does not mean that, for Christmas, you need to go and hire 20 people to answer your phones. What it does mean is that you have to provide them with a great experience, right? So from the time they've ordered the item, from the time it's shipped, from the time it's attempted delivery is going to go out, if there's going to be something that they've missed the delivery, can I pick it up down around the corner? All these things are extremely important. And the biggest thing, and then Josh touched on it, is how do you communicate with your customer? How do you let them know? If this person is going to check the item 6 times, how do you let them know proactively before they actually have to pick up the phone and call you and go, hey, where's my package, right? The whole point of this exercise is really to let them know beforehand what the process is going to be. Right? It's a 2-day process. It's going to the US. It might be a 6-day process. Going to Canada, same thing. So the most important thing you have to do is find a way to deliver that experience, because your customer has not come to expect that. Again, if you order an item from Amazon, as soon as you place the order, within a minute you get a message. Hey, guess what? We got your order. This is when we think we're going to be able to deliver it. Right? Right there on the screen. The next thing is when it's actually shipped, it tells you item has been shipped, so you can see that, right? The next thing, there's going to be an attempted delivery today, and if the carrier is really good, you should be able to get a window, right? Nothing is worse than, I worked from home for a number of years, is that you take the dog out for a walk and you come back and there's a note on your door saying, hey, sorry we missed you. And then you're like, okay, I've got to go out of my way to pick up that package again. So the communication is extremely important. Now, most smaller companies are going to go, well, I'm not Amazon. I can't, how do I manage something like that? And again, that's where a company like Ship and Chimp, and there's a lot of folks out there that will give you that experience, right? The beauty of the information that we have now is that it's so easy to tie it all together and have it in one place that they can now see. Your customers can see it. You can proactively send information to your customer. That's all fantastic. So again, customer service to me is paramount in terms of how you want to interact with your customer. Now, cross-border options is very important. I mean, I think we're doing a lot of business coming in from China. If you're in the U.S., it's coming in from China. Canada is coming in from the U.S. and China, and vice versa. So the cross-border options, and Tony dealt with it very well. The DDU, DDP question, right? How do you deal with that? The beauty of going from Canada to the US is like there's an $800 threshold, right? Most consumers' goods would fit nicely under that. Coming to Canada, it's a little bit different, right? It's like, I think it's $40 right now. And after that, then there's extra charges on it. So it becomes a little bit more difficult for, let's say, a US customer into Canada from China. I think it's only $20. And so from China to Canada, it becomes more difficult. In different countries, they have different levels of what they will accept. So again, working with a company like Tony's and Passport, that helps quite a bit, because now you can start to work with your customer better, right? Like, most people in most countries who order things internationally, they understand, but you're starting to compete with a domestic market that makes it very easy to deliver. So you have to make it easy for your customers to use your services. So whether you're a domestic customer, great. If you're crossing the border, an extra level of difficulty is there. And even I still struggle. I just sent the package to the US, and I've been watching it spin around the UPS warehouse for the last week, which is not a good thing. But so, when your customer is looking at that, it's not a good sight. So the important thing is to arm yourself with that knowledge of DDU, DDP, duties unpaid, duties paid. Duties paid is a little bit more of a bigger process, but again, with the right provider, you can make that as seamless as possible. The next thing to look at is your best mix of carriers. And I came from one of the big guys in Canada, but I also realized over the last 5 years, a lot of the regional carriers, especially in the US and Canada, and I've done some work in Europe also, they've done really good things. And the biggest gap that existed before was just what I talked about before, was the communication gap, right? The joke was that, things would go dark for like about 3-4 days when you give it to one of the smaller carriers. That is no longer the case. Just based on what's happening with technology, any carrier is able to give you all that information that you want when you want it quickly. And then again, if you can synthesize that into one nice package that you can put in front of your customer that is easy to use, you're not asking them to go to UPS to track this, go to FedEx to track this, go to Canada Post to track this. Everything is in one place. And even more than that, to be proactively combining that and sending it to them, customers love that. It helps you with that customer experience. So you want to use the best mix of carriers, and don't be afraid to go out and try some different carriers. It's not just the FedEx, UPS world anymore. There are people out there that can provide some great services. And then that's where, again, Ship and Chip, not to promote them too much, but that's where they can come in, because to be able to rate shop, and not only rate shop, because I don't like just going for something just because of price, but rate shop and also service demands, right? Like, it's no point in having an item that you saved yourself 40% on it, but it's going to take a week to get there versus getting there in 2 days. So those are things that are very important, right? Like, how much speed to the carrier do you want, right? So that's important, because you want to make sure that you get into your customer in a reasonable time and their experience is good. The last one I want to touch on is just returns, and both parties, both Josh and Tony have touched on it. I can tell you that returns can be leveraged really well, or it can be an albatross around your neck, right? I will tell you, the old Sears guys in Canada, this is just going back when they first started e-commerce, they were getting 20% returns. Okay. And that kills the business, right? I think most customers that we're seeing right now, 4% would be an average of returns, and then some customers might, if they're really good at it, or if it's a more of a simple product, when sizes from China, almost that might be 50% returns, just because an extra large in China is like a small in the US. So those kinds of things we see quite often. So you have to know your product, you have to know where you're selling it to, and you have to know locally what does that mean, right? So electronics, pretty good. I mean, geez, you bought a speaker, it works. That's simple. I bought a extra large. I guess lumberjack shirt one time from China. I couldn't get one arm into it. So those are the things that are really important. And then cross-border returns are important. We recommend consolidation, right? If you've got enough volume, it just makes sense to have. If you're shipping something into Canada, you should have a Canadian return address. If you're shipping into the US, you should have a US return address. It's just that it just makes it difficult. To Tony's point, you can't have cross-border returns, but it is a little difficult. But if you have enough volume, it makes a lot of sense to have somebody consolidate those items and then be able to return them to you in a nice little package. In our services that we offer, part of our returns program, we'll reship. Sometimes it might be simple as, hey, you know what? The address was incorrect, so we can reship it, right? We can also liquidate. Sometimes, will you spend $30 to get a $5 item back? No, you might as well liquidate it, right? If you need to consolidate it and return because, hey, this thing is worth $80, $90, it makes sense to return it wherever across the border, we do that. So any returns program, again, not just ours, but anyone else, it's important to understand all of their different things that they can offer you. And the biggest thing, I mean, really and truly, I know most of the customers online are relatively small, but what I've learned over the last few years is you should negotiate, right? You should negotiate. Don't be afraid to negotiate. We tend to go, okay, well, these guys are offering us X, and we're just like, okay, we'll take it. Thank you very much for taking our package, right? And it's important to say, hey, I have options. I'd kind of like to see what's out there and give me your best rate. And again, you are the final decider as to what your company's going to be using. And it's important for you to understand you do have some power in terms of the negotiation part. So, again, these guys, both Josh and Tony, did an excellent job. There's not much more that I can add, but I also want to make sure that I give us some time in case there's some questions. But, the one thing I would say, and Josh, 100% correct. If you're planning for peak right now, we're too late. But hopefully you'll keep us in mind, and we'll work with you during the year. So next peak that we're ready for it, because we always think about peak by August. If you haven't planned for it, you're going to get rolled over by it. So that's the only real message I want is let's next year we're going to start earlier. So we'll have this meeting with you guys a little earlier next year, and hopefully through the year we'll talk and be ready to execute when peak comes for all of us. Anyway, thank you. And again, I'm open to any questions. I think we have a few, and we'll kind of go through there. Thank
awesome, Lee. Thank you so much, Lee. Like as always, Lee is just blowing us away with a lot of anecdotes and from real life examples. So that was fascinating. So to all the listeners, if you have any questions, do ping right now. We are open for questions right now. So I'll just give probably a minute or so for questions. In the meantime, we have a question, like a closing question to all the three of you, which is your number one advice for e-commerce brands to transform their shipping into competitive advantage. That's going to be the question that we will be posing to all the three of you, and it should be just one because it's your number one go-to advice for e-commerce brands. So just let us give a minute, and then we will go around asking the questions to you guys.
No questions?
No questions, I guess. And then I think we will then get started on our questions.
Would you like for me to start?
Yeah, so Josh, why don't you start on the number one advice for e-commerce brands, and you have
Sure.
to give us just one advice, your number one, your top advice for e-commerce brands.
So, personally, I think the aggregation of marginal gains is incredibly important, and we all need to embrace that and not only focus on one in particular part of our business, whether that be the very beginning process of identifying the right carrier for the right service levels and the right products, but also on the returns piece. So if I can gain 1% here and 5% there and maybe a couple percent here, obviously the total percentage gained is going to have a significant impact on my competitiveness as well as my customer experience. So I think one of the biggest things that I've gathered from listening to these fine folks talk today is that every one of us, and Tony and Lee alike, we all really recognize not only the hurdles in which the shipper or the retailer or the brand face, but we also recognize what our end consumer or customer is looking for in an experience. So with that, partnering with the right company, such as a Reliable Logistics or a Pitney Bowes, or with Tony's company over here at Passport, finding the right company that really understands not only your business, but what your customers are looking for in an experience, that is going to make, that's going to give you the advantage that you're looking for and really help you separate yourself from the competition. So I think that's probably my number one if I had to say.
Wonderful. Tony, what would be your advice?
Well, if I were to give one advice, I would say, well, shipping is complicated and the things will go wrong. Even if we don't want to, but things will inevitably eventually go wrong. And that's actually when it's time for you to shine. And so don't shy away from those opportunities when things go wrong. Take charge of them, really communicate to your customers, over communicate, and that's when you can win their trust and actually retain them as a long-term customer.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Lee, what would be your advice?
Well, great points, guys. I think my one advice would be that thanks to technology, a small company can act as a big company. You can give your customer the same experience as a big company if you leverage all the tools that are out there. So don't be afraid to try different tools, bring things in, see what's out there in the marketplace, because I think you can give, our customers are expecting certain things. We know that, we hear it every day, and we, to meet that need, leverage the tools that are out there. Don't be afraid to do that. That would be my one piece of advice.
Fascinating. Great. So I think we are almost near the end of the session. So guys, if you're listening or if you're listening to the recordings, don't shy away from reaching out to these wonderful folks. Joshua is from Pitney Bowes, Tony is from Passport Shipping, and he's from Reliable Logistics. So if you have any questions or if you are looking for a shipping partner, do reach out to all these three experts among our panels today. So this was great, and so great. Have a happy holiday selling season to all the e-commerce brands who are listening, and to you folks, happy holidays.
Thank you so much, Rev.
Great job, Rev.
Thanks, guys. Happy holidays.
Thanks.
Take care.
Yeah, you
Happy
too.
holidays.
Have a great. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.